right, so I'm going to be talking to you guys about what you would do leaving class today, okay? And so when we left class, we had put the problem from the notes in the calculator. And so what we need to do is say, all right, what do we do to do the problem on the homework, okay? And so the first thing you're going to do is, and I'm going to actually just redo the question that we did in our notes, but you guys would start by doing the problem on the homework. What we're going to do is we're going to start by going to clearing the list, and we're going to press y equals, and you notice that we've got two different equations that are in the list right here, okay? And so, well, that's dark. And we're going to push clear on both of those items. So clear, and you're going to arrow down to this one and push clear. And notice it clears out both those equations, okay, which is great. And then, I don't know why this is being so weird. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to leave on plot 1 because we're going to use plot 1 eventually, but we do want to clear out the data from plot 1 as well. And so the second thing is you're going to do is press stat. And so when we press stat, we're going to choose edit, okay? And so when we choose edit, we want to clear out the old data. And so we go up to list 1 and push clear, enter. And we do that on, I did list 2 first, but you push clear, enter. Do not push delete because you don't want to delete the actual whole column, okay? And then we didn't reset our calculator. We didn't do anything weird. We don't need to turn on diagnostics. We're basically set, okay? So we cleared out the equations and we cleared out the stats, okay? So the next thing we've got to do is we need to enter our new data. Now you guys will do the data from your problem on your homework, but I'm going to do the data from on here, okay? And so how will I do that? I'm going to press stat, okay? And I'm going to push edit, okay? And I'm going to type in the items that are going to be here. So I'm going to type in the X values in list 1 and press enter after each item. And then go over to list 2, and that will be your Y values. And again, I'm doing the problems from the notes again, just so that you guys can remember what we did. You guys will do the problem from the homework. And so we've got X and Y there. On your homework, the X is the top row and Y is the bottom row. And then we want to set the window to work for the problem that you're doing now, okay? So I'm going to push zoom, which is an automatic window, okay? And I'm going to do zoom 9, okay? You'll also do zoom 9. And that will snap your data to fit your screen, okay? The data from your statistical items that you did. Now, I like to change the window because, you know, sometimes you want to see the scale. And so you hit window, and then I like to change the X minimum, okay, to be 0 so I can see the X and Y axes. And so I'm going to go down to Y min and change that to be 0 as well, okay? Now, if you need to increase the size of your window that you're going to look at, you can increase the X maximum and the Y maximum as well, because your calculator will only show you data or give you information on what it can see. It's kind of smart but dumb at the same time. So you feel welcome to change your X max and your Y max to be a little bit bigger if you need it. It'll say hateful words if you ask it to tell you where 50 is if you don't even have, you know, that graphed on your calculator. So hit graph, and so you can see we are graphing the first quadrant of these stats, okay? Now, for every problem you do, you're going to find the linear regression or the line of best fit, and the way you do that is you push stat, and you ask it to calculate by arrowing to the right. We want a linear regression, which is option 4, and it says, do you want your X values to be list 1? Yes. How about list 2? Yes, that would be the Y values. Arrow down to storing, okay? You want it to store, like copy paste, your very long decimal equation and put it in the graphing function, okay? And so you tell it, okay, it says use alpha trace, okay? So alpha trace, and it says, do you want to put it in Y1? Sure, sounds good. So you push enter or you type the number 1. Now, this is what it should look like, and then you arrow down to calculate and say, sure, when you're ready, hit calculate, and it will blink a couple times, and it will give you the A value, which is going to be the slope. It'll give you
Brad Peck, please call down here to the front office,
which is the y-intercept.
Brad Peck, 7874.
And the R value is the correlation coefficient. So you'll copy down each of those items, and you can put it in the slope-intercept form. Okay, that'd be smart. Round as the directions will say. Now you can look at the graph, okay, and say, hey, look I have graphed my stats, I have graphed my linear regression equation, and if you look at the y equals, you'll notice the plot 1 is the scatter plot that's on. You'll notice that the slanted line is going to be this decimal 1, okay, y equals mx plus b. The m is quite a long number, and the b is also, if you arrow to the right, see the arrow says it's got many more digits they've got here. And so then the last two things that we're going to do with each of these is, if I give you x, can you find y? Okay, and so you go to your graph, and so if you know x and you want to find y, you push trace. Okay, now this is tracing the scatter plot, and you can arrow left and right and it'll trace your scatter plot. You're like, oh, that was fun, it's like popcorn. But I want to arrow down, so I'm tracing actually the slanted line, okay, the linear regression equation. So that's what you do. And then if you know some x values that you want to talk about, again, we hit trace, and it will show you any x entrance values and find the related y. So I can type in, say, 5, enter, and it'll say, well, when x is 5, this is the answer. I can type 8, enter, okay? I can type in 15, enter, okay? What I can't do, though, is if I do 38, enter, it's going to say some hateful words, because if you look at the window, hit quit, if you hit the window, you'll notice that the x max is locked at 21. So I could make it bigger and push graph, and then I can type in values that are in the window that is displayed. And so again, I push trace, and I can arrow down, trace, arrow down to get to the slanted line, and I can type in the values, 40, enter, and it'll give me the values that I'm looking for. You might have to increase the y values as well if it stretches above the top of the graph as well. Okay, so you can hit window and adjust that as you need. The way that if I give you y and I ask you to find x is you go to y equals, and you arrow down to say, let's type the graph y equals, okay? We're going to graph the y value that we know. And so say they're like, okay, let's graph y is equal to 20, okay? And you can push graph. And again, if it's above the top of your graph, you might have to increase the y max to make that go as well, okay? And so then we want to find out, when y is this value, where does these graphs cross? And the way you do that is second, trace, which is calculate. Okay, so there's a blue calculate there. Now I want to find the intersection, so it's option 5 is intersect. And then it says 3 questions. Is this the first graph that it says curve, but they mean graph. Is this the first graph you want to intersect? And that's the slanted line, you push enter. Do you want to intersect that with the horizontal line, y equals 20? Sure. Okay, you push enter. Okay, so if I give you a y value, you graph that y equals as an equation. And then it says guess. And this is really only important if there's more than one intersection point between those two graphs. We have 2 lines, they're going to just cross on one point, so you just can push enter. Okay, a parabola would have 2, and they're like, well, which one do you want? So then you push enter, and this will tell you that when y is 20, you'll give you your x value. And so these are the main things that you're going to be looking for. And then here's a little hint. If you need to change your window, do it. Okay, you can alter these as you need to.